Hello and welcome to UDC Forum. I'm Dr. Sandra Jowers-Barber, Director for the Humanities at the University of the District of Columbia Community College. Tanisha Agramonte is a highly regarded civil rights champion whose personal and professional mission is to advance equitable opportunities for all. She has 25 years of experience in equal employment opportunity, diversity, and human relations. Currently, Tanisha is Director of the Office of Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Commerce. She joins me to talk about the department's First Generation Professional Initiative. During the program, you will meet three very impressive First Generation professionals. Tanisha, welcome.
Thank you, Sandra. It's great to be here and I appreciate the invitation.
Now, this First Generation project, what is the engine driving it?
So the engine driving this initiative is really within the federal government. All federal agencies are driven by a diversity and inclusion executive order that mandates that every federal agency endeavor to have a workforce that is drawn from our diverse American population. And so with that in mind, we want to make sure that every segment of our diverse American society has an equal opportunity to compete for jobs in the federal government, and once they get in, an opportunity to thrive.
Now, First Generation Professional, I fit in that category. So what is going to be offered and how do you identify, what are some of the characteristics that a First Generation Professional brings to the workplace?
So probably it'll be helpful to first identify how we've defined a First Generation Professional. So we've defined a First Generation Professional as someone who is one of the first in their immediate family to enter into the professional workplace, meaning that their parents either held traditional blue-collar positions or working-class positions that didn't require a college degree. So from that standpoint, it's a definition that I think many can self-identify. It's not a label, but it is something that describes individuals who are the first in their family to go into this uncharted territory of the professional workplace.
Now, you say uncharted. What do you need to navigate an uncharted new arena?
So one of the things that we found, this is the Office of Civil Rights that I lead in partnership with the U.S. Census Bureau, which is a bureau under the Department of Commerce. We actually partnered to conduct some research and study. And the outcome of this study is that there are some common themes that First Generation Professionals said where they've experienced some challenges in the workplace. One is around unwritten rules in the workplace, identifying what those are and learning how to operate within that context in an organization. The other is really dealing with self-efficacy, managing the imposter syndrome. The other has to do with social networks, social capital. Many times people who were raised in a household with professional parents are able to leverage their parents' social capital, those networks that they've developed. And then financial literacy. That's another area where if you were raised in a household, in particular a low-income household, where your parents may not have had disposable income to save or invest and prepare for retirement, there might be some opportunities to improve your financial literacy, to make sure that you're adequately taking care of your finances with this newfound money.
Now, is there any stigma attached to someone identifying as a First Generation Professional?
Surprisingly, at times there are. We are learning a lot. I'm learning a lot from doing this initiative. One of the things that I really didn't expect was that there might be a stigma of shame associated with coming from either a low-income background or coming from a background where your parents held blue-collar or working-class positions. So that is one of the things that we're finding. But my message to all first-generation professionals is really captured well in a Frederick Douglass quote, and that is, "We are not judged by the heights we have risen, but from the depths we have climbed." And I think first-generation professionals should be proud that they are trailblazers. You know, they come from hardworking families, and they're expanding into this area of occupations that others in their family have not done. And so I think their family members are looking at them with pride, that they're expanding the occupations that their family has traversed and are working in.
Now, let's meet one of 3 first-generation professionals.
My name is Ronnie Venture. I'm a first-generation professional from Guyana, and I'm currently the Deputy Officer for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties and the Director of EEO and Diversity at the Department of Homeland Security. I moved to the United States when I was 5 to live with my dad, an employee at Eastern Airlines, and stepmom, a nurse's aide. As with most parents, but especially immigrant parents, education and having a better life and more opportunities than they had was very important. Although my parents wanted the best for me, they were educated in Guyana and didn't know how to help me navigate through college. However, as I grew up, they did instill upon me the will to do better, study harder, and get better grades, so I was able to attend a liberal arts college on a scholarship. I distinctly remember how unprepared I was for college when I showed up to my dorm room with only 2 suitcases and none of the dorm essentials like sheets. College was difficult as I battled the imposter syndrome, had very little money and often feeling out of place as I was embarrassed to bring friends home on break and couldn't afford spring break vacations like most of the other students, some of whom had Porsches. But through hard work and tenacity, I navigated college and went on to law school, also on a scholarship. Since then, I've learned to overcome the shame associated with my humble beginnings, even though I still live in fear that one day someone will notice that I'm not as smart or as capable as they think I am. So law school taught and prepared me for a lot of unwritten rules in my career, such as judges' expectations, etiquette, dress and appearance, and communication skills. So when I started my career as a law clerk and became a trial attorney, I was much better prepared than I had been for college. My mentors and social networks were not only important in showing me how things worked, but also pushed me to my full potential and provided necessary encouragement. I had a boss who took me under his wing and pushed me to take on a lot of leadership roles. He guided me, had faith in me, recognized my capabilities, and gave me more responsibilities when he thought I was ready, and taught me to be an effective supervisor. I always tried to live up to his expectations, and through that grit and tenacity, I proved myself worthy of the promotions offered. Whether because of a knowledge gap or feeling fear as a FGP, I still find it hard to self-advocate for myself in these situations. But it's important for FGPs to remember, you are worthy, you are capable, and you do have the qualifications. Now draw on your background as a strength and leverage that grit, loyalty, and flexibility instilled in you by your parents, and empower yourself to realize your full potential. I hope this initiative will lead to programs and workshops that give other FGPs a similar experience that I had in regards to my support system, whether that be a mentor or colleague, that will help FGPs navigate right off the bat and enable them to fully leverage the qualifications they bring, as well as the grit and tenacity from overcoming obstacles and challenges. By doing so, FGPs will be able to contribute knowing that organization values and appreciates their backgrounds and life experiences and enables them to provide culturally competent services in accomplishing their organization's mission. Thank you.
What are some challenges that you hope to address through this initiative?
What we really hope to address are those things that I talked about that a first-generation professional experiences on the individual level. So those learning how to navigate the unwritten rules, building their network, hopefully through some mentoring for them to help them learn the lay of the land. But while that's critical and important, probably what's even more important is addressing the systemic policies, practices, and procedures that have an unintentional negative impact on our ability to hire and advance first-generation professionals. For example, recruitment bias, right? So a lot of people may not even think about this, but if a hiring official has a very limited lens on how they determine who is the best and the brightest, and they think that comes in the form of only attending elite universities, top tier universities, and completing that degree within 4 years and getting competitive internships, well, those might be things that prevent them from considering a first generation professional. Because what we know is most first generation professionals matriculate through state universities, community colleges, online universities, not because they're incapable of getting into a top tier school, but because their life circumstances dictated a different path.
Now, one of the things that we're seeing is that community college are gaining a new perspective and a new prestige. So that may not be a stigma, but how do you address the hiring end of it? How are you going to change their view?
I think only thing we can do at this juncture is increase awareness of those biases that may exist. So if someone, for example, feels as if you took too long to complete school, that says something about your work ethic, or if it says something about your intellect, then we want to challenge that. And we want to expand that thinking that even though someone may have had a non-traditional career path or academic journey, does not mean that they're incapable of thriving and contributing and unleashing their potential in the workplace.
So I guess this gets back to also having that first generation professional prepare a narrative that talks about all of that, if it was an extended period of time, how they were able to be persistent and retain all of their enthusiasm to complete. What do you see as the obligation of a community college or an institution to prepare a first generation professional?
I think where academic institutions can help first generation college students who will be first generation professionals prepare to enter the workforce is by focusing on those traits I think you were just speaking about: tenacity, grit, resiliency, determination, resourcefulness. Those are all the traits acquired by overcoming obstacles. And those are really traits that are beneficial in the workplace. Not only that, first generation professionals, especially those who come from lower income backgrounds, bring cultural competency to our workplace. They come from a background that represents the constituents that we serve. At least a third of the public comes from lower income. So they bring with them a keen understanding of that population that helps us improve the services and products that we deliver to that community and the American population as a whole.
And they're usually bringing that support system from families that want to see them obtain more than what they were able to obtain. Let's take a look at another first generational professional.
My name is Sahil Lauji, and I am a first-generation, low-income college student from Atlanta, Georgia. My mother worked in the real estate industry until the market crash of 2008, but without a college education, she had challenges finding jobs afterward. The financial issues that came about due to these challenges made my years growing up hard, especially as an only child, where my single mother and I moved often. My father worked at a convenience store and was shot and paralyzed in an armed robbery during my sophomore year of high school. After my father was shot, I moved in with him and took up a part-time job to help pay expenses at home. I had to balance working with achieving high grades, running cross-country and track, and leading community service initiatives. When college applications rolled around, I was left alone with deciding what schools to apply to and how to go about the application. Luckily, I came across programs such as QuestBridge that expose low-income students like myself to top-tier institutions across the country. With the support of my father and an assistant principal, I applied to top-tier universities and was accepted to schools such as Harvard, Princeton, and Duke. And now I'm a junior at Harvard studying government with a secondary in comparative religion and helping run Harvard's first generation low-income pre-orientation program. And while my time at Harvard has been enriching, there continues to be institutional challenges I need to overcome as a first-generation student. Aside from often being one of the only people of color in many of my classes, I am also often one of the few students from a working-class background. In academic settings and extracurriculars I am involved with, it can be hard to relate to many of my peers who have the connections and networks that I just don't have. People from my background often do not think about applying to schools outside their state, so without outreach programs and the support of mentors, I would not be at Harvard today. Coming from a first-generation, low-income background, I faced challenges with navigating school resources, feeling supported, and adjusting to social life on campus. On the other hand, my wealthier peers went to prep schools and had parents that attended college who could support them. Despite this, I learned to not have shame in asking for help or support, and instead am able to take initiative in doing so. In my classes, extracurriculars, and internships, I shed light on the socioeconomic challenges people face in our society. Coming from humble beginnings, I knew early on that I needed to be self-motivated and resourceful in order to succeed and propel myself forward in this challenging academic environment. And although I carry myself with confidence, not having the financial backing or social networks that many of my peers take for granted, it is challenging at times to succeed on my will and tenacity alone.
Going ahead, what do you see as a direction to sort of counter these challenges?
So I think key to it is increasing awareness. I mean, this is a very new area. This is a new frontier for diversity and inclusion. So I think increasing awareness of the opportunities and the challenges, also making sure that first generation professionals are celebrated for their successes, making sure that we let the world know that they're trailblazers and that they bring incredible talent to the workplace, and making sure that they know they're not alone. Connect them with other first generation professionals. And then also partner with other agencies where we can, other nonprofit organizations, and whoever's interested in presenting workshops, providing mentorship, anything that can help first generation professionals thrive and unleash their potential.
And the collaboration, I think, is going to be key as well, because many times if a first generation professional or first generation college student on their way to being a professional doesn't make that connection while they're in an academic arena, many times they're not going to make it outside of the academic arena. So the partnership between the agency and the institution will be important. Do you see this program extending to the institutions and coming in and having maybe an internal program?
Absolutely, because we recognize that the first touch point shouldn't be when they're already in the workplace. Although our program is aimed at helping first generation professionals who are already in the workplace, we think that in order to optimally help first generation professionals, our first touch point should be developing them while they're in the pipeline headed to the workforce. So those partnerships and collaboration between the federal government and academic institutions and private organizations that help first generation college students as they're aspiring to be professionals is key.
Now, this is a new venture. Did you have any pushback, or was there always a top-down approach to supporting this?
I have to say, within my organization, I have had incredible support from my supervisor all the way up to the top senior leaders within the Department of Commerce. They recognize that in order to build a diverse workforce and have an inclusive work environment, we must be creative, we must be innovative, and they see this as a cutting edge, new diversity and inclusion initiative that should get top priority.
Now, are there connections made once they get into the initiative? How is it sustained? I mean, can they move through an agency and still maintain membership or a connection to the initiative?
So right now, I think we're really at the infancy stages of the initiative. So we're at the building awareness sort of stage. We're at the stage exploring how do we sustain this initiative in a way that it not only helps current first generation professionals, but future first generation professionals. So I think at every stage of one's career, there's an opportunity to provide assistance, information, and resources for their professional career development, because at every stage, there are going to be new obstacles, new rules, new ways of operating that will require them to exercise a different set of tools to advance and thrive in whatever capacity that they aspire to function in.
It would be interesting as this new group or the initial group moves through to see how they reach back and give back and mentor. It would be ideal if someone going through can come back to an institution and talk about the benefits and also the challenges.
Right, absolutely. So I think that's one of the things we've been speaking to all our first generation professionals who are participating in this initiative is that we have to pull others up as we climb the ladder, right? That's important to pay it forward. And all of them have made a commitment to doing that.
Here is our final first generation professional.
My name is David Zaya, and I am currently the Chief Administrative Officer of the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm a first-generation professional from a small, rural-based community in Michigan of roughly 1,400 people. My town was so small that we didn't get our second stoplight in the county until I was in high school. My father worked at the local A&P grocery store 50 miles away as a stocker checker in the evening shift. My mother worked as a medical transcriptionist at the local hospital to help supplement income once my brother and I were old enough to be home alone. Going to college was always part of the plan for me, as my parents wanted me to do better and more with my life. I earned some scholarships as a salutatorian of my class, and the scholarships covered about half of my room and board and tuition. So I supplemented my financial aid with a work-study program. I started as a general cafeteria worker and rose to a level 3 kitchen supervisor in charge of students and operations, supporting full-time kitchen employees in meal preparation. Having to balance work and school helped me develop a strong work ethic and a determination to succeed. I learned time management skills and how to develop my social networks. I was provided job training and leadership experience that I've used throughout my career in the federal government. My first job in the federal government was in the Chicago Office of Public Housing as a housing management assistant, GS7, with the promotion potential to the GS12. I was hired under the Outstanding Scholars Program after numerous unsuccessful interviews for the HUD intern program. I thought that not being an intern would disadvantage me in terms of getting to know people and the organization and stifle my career progression. I felt inadequate and inferior to the HUD interns since I didn't graduate from an Ivy League school or have previous federal government or private sector experience like most others in the program. However, I made it my job to get to know the interns and learn from them. I met and worked with the people they were meeting and made it a point to have them get to know me. I was approached more than once by leadership to rotate in their office and was even offered a lateral opportunity in the Office of Housing, which was blocked by my office director. My tenacity, work ethic, and a determination to succeed, despite the feeling of vulnerability, ultimately led to an offer as program analyst in headquarters. There are many ways in which I was inadequately prepared for my career, but this example of financial illiteracy is one I will never forget. I found a great high-rise apartment that allowed me to walk to work and get to know the city. Although I had never paid rent before, I did the math based on my annual salary and thought I was fine. But I wasn't informed about things like retirement, life insurance, thrift savings plan, and other deductions that mysteriously appeared on my pay stub. In the end, my first paycheck barely covered half of my rent, and I quickly realized this was an unsustainable situation. I wish there would have been programs or classes to help think about this, and felt foolish for not thinking about it when deciding where to live. My mentors and supervisors helped me learn skills that allowed me to be confident in my newfound abilities. I learned how to be a part of a workplace culture and how to successfully navigate within that culture through observation, commitment, and being genuine to my colleagues and the mission at hand. I think that my parents' example of hard work to provide for their family and sacrifices were massive influencing factors on who I am today. Though they didn't have the college experience to fall upon or relate to me, they did have the experience of valuing and serving people from all walks of life.
Tanisha, this has been so informative and exciting that there is this federal push and lead to do this. How excited are you about this?
I am super excited about it, but I will tell you, there have been times that even I've second-guessed myself because, as I said earlier, I'm learning so much and how to frame the initiative, what it really is, who are we targeting, what is it that we hope to achieve, and then all of the sort of misconceptions that arise sometimes when you embark on a new initiative. And so there are a couple that I want to dispel in terms of misconceptions. One, that first generation professionals do not have deficits. This is not about deficits. every professional has opportunities to improve in their career or to have professional development. So this is not about deficits. They definitely bring talent and traits that are helpful for the workforce. The other one is that this is targeting minorities. No, this is targeting a particular group of people who are the first in the workplace. And this transcends race, gender, national origin, socioeconomic strata is not limited to one diversity dimension. It covers many of them.
Well, it's wonderful to hear that also that there's that acceptance, because that is such a challenge many times for people who believe that if they identify as a first generation anything, that it's going to be a negative impact. Thank you so much for being here with us. If you are interested in learning more about the academic programs and events offered by the University of the District of Columbia, visit the university's website at www.udc.edu. And to learn more about the many degree, certificate, and training programs offered by the University of the District of Columbia Community College, please visit the website at www.cc.udc.edu. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Sandra Jowers Barber.